Duelists. Today, we're talking about the ban list on Master Duel. We just had our new selection pack release, the Invincible Raid. I don't think that Dynamorphy or B-Troopers is going to shake up the meta in terms of what needs to get banned or unbanned too much, so I figured it's time that I give my takes just as many have come before me. But first, I want to start this video off with two important disclaimers. One, I only started playing Yu-Gi-Oh! When Master Duel came out earlier this year. That's the year of our Lord 2022. And though I've been competitively minded, I've consumed a lot of content about the game and tried to play it at the highest level, I'm certainly no expert in the game. I haven't experienced various formats and decks or cards in their most powerful iterations, so I'm certainly not a reputable authority on what decisions Konami should make regarding the ban list to improve their game. Though, if you listen to many content creators, Konami isn't a reputable authority on what they should do to improve the game either. But that's neither here or there. That being said, I play this game a lot, I greatly enjoy it, and I think about it consistently. So I've seen what's going on, and I have some fucking opinions. So if you think I'm going to miss out on that sweet, juicy, rage-inducing content, you're dead wrong. Let's go. The ban list. So, before I get to what should be banned, I just want to explain my general philosophy, which is twofold. Part one, I want as few cards on the list as possible. I want people to be able to play with as many different cards as possible, of course, while still having a healthy format. Secondly, this definition of healthy includes not only diversity of deck selection, but also how much fun we're having in the format. Basically, if you're preventing people from playing the game, and especially taking forever and wasting my time doing so, you're a problem and you need to go. Floodgates. We'll talk about that later. I figured I should start this off with a hot take, just so you guys don't immediately click off the video. Maxi does not need to be banned. That card can stay at 3. It's totally fine. The Little Earth Insect Who Could is a good way to mitigate the potency of going first decks, especially the ones that set up with 1,000,001 negates. There's also a real risk-reward calc that has to be done when you're activating Maxi. Do you want to take the Maxi challenge when your opponent activates against you? Do you set up and give them a few cards but don't do your full combo, just enough that you can hope to contain them on turn 2? And if I'm the person activating Maxi, I think there's a lot of nuance to when you activate it during the turn. Do you just fire it right in standby? Do you fire it in draw after they've potentially activated some things? Or do you only respond to an activation, but then you miss out on potential inherent specials that could be drawing you cards as well? Lastly, we have Ash Blossom and also Called by the Grave, which are ubiquitous and both stop Maxi in this game, and also leads me into my next potentially contentious point, which is let's put Called by to 3. It's at 2 right now. I really think the whole semi-limiting philosophy is questionable and dubious, to say the least. Either put it to 3 or ban this card. People in the TCG, they have it at 1. They want it banned. I think they have it at 2 in the OCG, but don't quote me on that. But either way, it's too sacky if you only have it at 1 or even 2. Either let us have an extra high power format, triple Maxi, triple Called by, like that, or take a hardline stance on what hand traps are going to be allowed and what are not. And also cue all the TCG players' rage after this point. Next, let's talk about extra deck monsters. Now, the biggest problem that I find with extra deck monsters is that you always have access to them, right? You don't have to search them out of the deck, and several of them are splashable. They're made with generic materials, so they become ubiquitous. First off, Crystron Halka Firex and Mecha Phantom Beast Auroradon. One of these has to go. Separately, they're fine, but being able to easily get into Auroradon from Hulk and then execute the synchro spam strategies, that's not something that I think is going to fly in the metagame. Not only is it so accessible and can be played in basically all the decks, like I said, because Crystron Hulk is easy to make, and then you just have to play, one singular machine tuner so that you can get into your Auroradon, but also these combos take a long ass time, like minutes. Either of them can go. Reality, it probably should be Hulk, as it's way easier to make and also can be used in other things that aren't strictly Hulk Auroradon lines, though that is the most potent and generally egregious version of this sort of thing. Although Hulk's more generic utility could be an argument to keep it around, since you can use it in different decks without doing the Hulk Auroradon spam combo. Either way, one of these needs to go. That whole synchro spam line is problematic. Another generally splashable extra deck monster that we've seen out in full force, DPE, does not need to be banned. DPE is a fair card. It's certainly a powerful card, and keeping it around gives more credence to my Called by to 3 argument, because we can then just snipe DPE in the graveyard, but ultimately, it's a fair card. However, if we're going to keep DPE as a pillar of the format, we need to either ban Predaplant Verte Anaconda or limit Fusion Destiny. I support DP in the format. It's just way too easy to make the big chicken. If you ban Verte, people need to either dedicate crucial main deck spots to Destiny heroes and to fusion spells, Fusion Destiny, i.e. If you keep Verte, it's way too easy for people to hard draw Fusion Destiny and make DP for free without having to invest the materials and the life points, which matter, into Verte, and an additional extra deck spot as well. Speaking of packages that go in nearly every deck, here's another quick note, and potentially a hot take as well. Adventure doesn't need to be touched. The preemptive semi-limit of Right and Enchantress was correct in my opinion. It doesn't cripple the engine, but it's also not a guarantee every game. I know I talked shit about the semi-limiting policy earlier, but I think in this case, it's a good thing. Also, those two cards are the only ones you usually play more than one of anyway, so it's not like limiting Griffin or limiting Adventure is really going to cause any big splashes. Lastly, extra deck monsters. We need to talk about the new Armed Dragon Infinite Negate deck. Now, you might think I'm going to say ban Galaxy Tomahawk. And I might, but hear me out first. There are a few cards in that deck that are banned in the TCG and could be argued to be on the chopping block. I'm thinking Union Carrier, I'm thinking Simorgh, Bird of Sovereignty, and of course Galaxy Tomahawk as well, number 42. Similar to Auroradon, Tomahawk making a bunch of tokens that can be used and abused as material is a problem. However, the tokens only get you to the other links that facilitate the combo. Union Carrier, Simorgh, Harping Conductor, that sort of stuff. That's how the combo generally goes. Simorgh's only an issue because it gets you Apex Avian. Avian's a totally reasonable card. They play it in Flunderies. I play it in Flunderies. I think it's a nice way to supplement that deck. They played it in the Tri-Brigade deck back when that was tier 1. It's a totally reasonable card when it's not paired with the Thunderbird, which enables the Infinite Negates. Which honestly makes me almost think we should say ban Thunderbird, but I think there's a deeper issue here. That would only be a solution if this was the only prohibitive combo that Union Carrier enabled. However, hint hint, wink wink, it's not. Union Carrier pulls the Thunderbird from the deck and equips it to Simorgh to put the Infinite Negate engine online. Union Carrier also routinely equips Dragon Buster Destruction Sword to lock people out of the extra deck. Remember that effect for later. And in base decks, like my Gem Knight FTK, simple plug here, check the video on the channel, it equips Block Dragons for an easy Block Dragon trigger. As I said, my philosophy is always to have as few cards on the ban list as possible. So if we hit Union Carrier, which in a vacuum causes the most issues, that would make the most sense to me as opposed to hitting those other potentially problematic cards like Tomahawk, like Simorgh, even like Apex Avian or Thunderbird. Finally, let's talk about the Master Duel staple, not Maxi, we already talked about that, Floodgates. Every Master Duel player's favorite thing. If at all during this video, I'm going to lose my shit and any sort of logical processing, this might be it, so bear with me. Like I said, my personal definition of a healthy format includes not only deck diversity and good technical gameplay and meaningful choices, but also how fun it is to play the game. You can have a nearly perfect format in terms of the intricacy of play, but we're not computers, we have emotions, and I'm not going to be able to appreciate that if the game fucking sucks to play. Floodgates generally go contradictory to every single of these points that I just made. Mainly, they prevent people from doing anything during the game, so that's no fun. It also goes against any sort of technical gameplay, deck diversity, meaningful choices, because once again, you're not doing anything. No matter how ingenious my Rogue Brew is and how well I can play it, it probably loses to you flipping Skill Drain or Imperial Order. And when cards like Skill Drain and Imperial Order have such a nuclear effect on games as a whole, basically any deck that's trying to be top tier will probably play it either main or side deck to steal free wins. Even if the card's limited, you can still sack your way into several wins, especially throughout the course of a tournament or grinding on ladder. TCG players, I'll throw you a bone, Mystic Mine, Anti-Spell Fragrance, these are things that we're seeing in the current metagame. Okay, I'll step off the soapbox. What do I actually think we should ban? I like to keep things simple. I like to keep things systematic. Let's implement a rule with a few caveats and exceptions, obviously. If you're a Floodgate and you're already limited, you're banned. If you're a Floodgate and you're at 3, you're limited to 1. Imperial Order, Vanity's Emptiness. Let's be real. Why do these cards exist? These cards were mistakes. They're from a long, long time ago when Konami didn't really know what they were doing with the game. Please, let's stop playing these. They're banned in the TCG, and I believe at least one of them is banned in the OCG. Let's just get these out of here. We shouldn't have to deal with these. Even at 1, they're too much. Skill Drain. Goes in match. Summon Limit. Rivalry of Warlords. There can be only 1. Even Dimensional Barrier. Probably forgetting some, but these are the most commonly played, especially on Master Duel, and I believe in the TCG as well. Put them all to 1. Now, obviously these cards will still exist. I recognize that. And when your opponent draws them, it's going to feel sacky as hell. But I think we should try them at 1 first before sending them straight to the Shadow Realm, especially since it'll be much harder to build a back row heavy Floodgate deck if you don't have the sheer density of all these cards at 3, right? Generally, most decks are playing 3 of 2 or 3 of these as opposed to 1 of each. Although putting them all to 1 maybe makes it so that other decks will main deck the singular copy of all of them and just play 9 1-ofs as opposed to 3 3-ofs. It's hard to say. I think that's something that we can risk for now, but we'll see. Lastly, there are a few floodgates that are not in the back row, namely Artifact Scythe, as well as the Barrier Statues, and I'm going to even throw True King of All Calamities in there. I guess you could throw Arch Nemesis Protos as well. I know there are others, but once again, these are the most commonly seen and I would argue the most potent. Just ban them. They're all only played at 1 anyway. No one's playing 2 Artifact Scythes. No, Flunder's only playing 1 Barrier Statue of the Stormwinds. You're only playing 1 True King of All Calamities because it's limited, that sort of stuff. Without VFD, Virtual World will still be a powerful deck. They still have an incredible resource engine. They still have Shen. They still have all that sort of stuff. Floowandereeze can still make people rage quit without the Barrier Statue, right? And we have things like Apex Avian, Rise of the Storm Monarch, all that stuff to continue to quote-unquote lock people out without truly locking them out. And if we're leaving DPE and potentially even keeping Hulk and banning Auroradon, Scythe cannot stay, because DPE popping Scythe or Hulk into TG Wonder Magician is way too easy to use, especially if we're going to ban Union Carrier for providing a similar lock out of the extra deck with the Dragon Buster Destruction Sword. All right, well, that about wraps it up for my thoughts in terms of things that need to get banned in Master Duel. I didn't talk about any unbans, even though I did say that I want as many cards off the list as possible. I might say that for another video. Let me know if you guys want to hear my thoughts on that. But otherwise, that's what I think should be banned. Let me know why I'm wrong, why I'm right, what else you want to see go, and why. And I'll see you in the next video.